help if I unmute. Hi, everyone. Really good to, so thankful to be invited along to talk today about content and marketing during the current crisis. No, I've had the pleasure of speaking to many operators all over the world in terms of what's happening now and what are their pain points. And lots of the questions I get asked are things like, what should they be doing now in terms of marketing? And content is certainly one aspect of that, and is probably the main aspect at this time that you should be focusing on. And we'll touch a little bit on that today. If we can move to the next slide, please. So how important is content marketing during the current crisis? For me, at this time, content and SEO is an absolute must during this current crisis. I say this because I have had some operators and activity providers come to me over the last few weeks suggesting that they're going to stop marketing completely, or they shouldn't even mention COVID-19 or other factors around that, but technically not moving forward with any marketing whatsoever. For me, that is a big no, in my opinion. No, the fact is that if you are stopping your marketing now in any form, then you are literally telling your customers that your business is dead. You need to get out there. You need to market more so during this crisis, more than ever, to let people know that you are here, that you exist, and that you are still relevant. If you don't, then a competitor who is going to do this will jump ahead of you in terms of any future rankings or brand awareness campaigns. But one of the main aspects about creating content just now is summed up by the following statement on the next slide. So at the moment, people are self-isolating. We're all stuck at home. We're all stuck in our current destinations. People are surfing the web more. Your customers are surfing the web more. They're looking for things that they wish they could be doing and looking at things they wish they can do once we come out of this crisis, and we will come out of this crisis. So at the moment, you in a sort of weird roundabout way, you are, and hopefully we never go through this situation again, that you literally have a captive audience sitting at home, surfing the web more, looking for things they wish they could be doing. So this is a prime time to give them content to read, to view, to be inspired by, to laugh at. Whatever that content is, this is the time to do it. So content marketing, in my opinion, is one of the best forms of marketing that you can do. Yes, you can do paid advertising, you can do all these things to generate you bookings and money quicker, obviously not during this crisis. But over time, you having a strong foundation in terms of content marketing, both on video and on written content, that will set you up for the years to come. If you can move to the next slide, please. Because at this moment in time, the dreaming phase, every customer goes through a dreaming phase. And at this moment in time, the dreaming phase is lasting 3 to 6 months. The customer dreaming phase is a lot longer because we can't pick up tours, because we can't go on international travel. So give them something to inspire to, give them really good content. And what I mean by good content is, for me, good original content from the perspective of the business owner, a tour guide, something along those lines that provides inspiration. Now, from my opinion, there should be no better content writer or content provider than a tour guide. They are doing this day in, day out with your customers. So they should be able to do this on written form or even in video format to get that information across to your potential audience. So during this streaming phase, give your audience, give your potential customers something to look, something to read, something to watch. This will all help towards your SEO. This will all help towards your brand recognition and give you a stronger brand going forward when we come out of this crisis. Can you move to the next slide, please? So one of the questions I was asked before coming on to this webinar was creating new content versus updating old content, or what actually works best for SEO. Now, as it was mentioned before, I run a tourism marketing agency. And what I'm about to tell you is what a lot of other agencies won't. And the fact is that once you have optimized your current website as much as you can't optimize it any further in terms of its content that's already there. The only way you can optimize further from that in terms of SEO and rankings is to generate new content. So if there's any agencies out there who are charging you a monthly fee to optimize your content on a monthly basis for the content that's already there without creating new content, you're wasting your money. You have to create new content. You can only update and optimize a website's current content as much as possible. After that, you maybe review every 6 to 12 months, sort of one-off piece. But after that, regular content, new content is what Google likes to see, and that's where ranking factors actually increase. So in terms of, so once you've done that, once you have optimized your content as fully as you can, researching your demographics, researching the keywords that they will be searching for, and you've updated your website with that, start creating new content. The new content can be, like I say, things around travel guides. This can be inspirational stories by your tour guides. This can be video content as well, again, from your tour guides. And video content helps with SEO as well. Now, Google own YouTube. If you have video on YouTube embedded in your website, this all is a ranking factor. You know, YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world, and it happens to be owned by Google. So use both platforms, use anything pretty much that Google provides you to promote your website and promote your content. That will have a betterment effect on terms of your rankings and your SEO. So new content for sure is the main focus, and that's what you should be focusing on. Can you move to the next slide, please? Is it worth creating COVID-centered content now? That is a very good question. So in terms of content around COVID, I would, and as what I have been advising a lot of my own customers with, is create content, initial content at the start in terms of you're only just started to produce content and you haven't done this already, is to mention COVID in one or two pieces. So this may be an update to your payment terms, or this might be how your current business is getting through the current crisis. But don't focus all of your content around COVID-19, because the content you want to produce going forward needs to be more evergreen. It needs to be something that will work 12 months down the line, two years down the line, 3 years down the line, and it's not specific to one thing that's happening now. So this is why I'm saying that any new content you are creating now should be around your experiences, should be around the stories of your guides and your staff. Now, a lot of businesses feel that they don't have enough skills or enough things to say in the content. And one of the things I say is just step back, have a look at the skills that are within your business and see what content you can create around those skills. So one of the things that advice I've given in the past is, say you run a food tour company. Say you have a staff member who is a vegan, or you have someone who speaks French. So there's two content ideas straight away there. You can have someone creating blog content or video content on a monthly basis around vegan food, vegan establishments in your destination, just talking about even providing recipes for people to create at home, so people come to your website knowing that they'll get things like that and that type of content. If you're in a whiskey tour company and you have someone there who is a master whiskey taster, they can create content on a regular basis through blogs and video, talking about whiskey, what whiskey pairs with which food, etc., etc. Wine tasting. I can go on and I can go on and I can go on. You already have the skill sets in your business to create this content. It's just thinking a little bit out of the box in terms of what you can do to write this content, or even do it within video sort of mediums as well. Can you move to the next slide, please? So I've put these two questions together because they sort of tie in together from what I'm about to say. So top 10 trending topics and search reports that you guys can write about, or what opportunities can you leverage right now in terms of content creation. So there's like a number of things happening at the moment. So obviously with the current crisis, international travel, unfortunately, it doesn't look like it's going to happen again anytime soon. In fact, you're probably not going to see international travel from all the different things that I'm reading and seeing across the world. International travel probably won't happen for at least, properly won't happen for at least 12 months. They're saying that this can't happen until a vaccine is in place. So one of the things that we're advising a lot of people on is you may need to pivot your business for a local domestic market. So if you already do that, or if you already have products for the local market, great. You're going to be in a better position going forward. If you do not have a local product, then you're going to have to start creating some, because the local market may be the only market available to you just now. And this will affect how people search for products as well. So if flights are banned for whatever reason, and people can only do activities within their local market, and when I mean local, if you happen to be in a state or a country where you have surrounding countries round about you, unlike the UK, we're an island. We don't have that. We only have Ireland across the water, but again, we might not be able to have people coming from Ireland. So if you're lucky enough to have destinations around you in cities or states around you, then that would be classed as local communities and local destinations for people to come to yours. So looking at the local markets is what you should be focusing on for the next 12 months. And that, by default, is what people will be searching for. So people will be searching for activities within or around their own destination. So if your content on your website is more focused for an international market, you're going to have to start thinking about how you can repurpose that content to create new pages or update those pages for the local market. So this is the opportunities that are going to be going forward for the next 12 months. You have to write about your tours and activities and your products for the local market. And we'll go through some of these in a second in terms of the types of things that you could be thinking about for your local market. If we can move to the next slide, please. So some of the topics and opportunities coming up would certainly be outdoor activities. We're stuck at home. We we've been stuck with our families for so long. We just want to get out. I want to explore again, get some fresh air. So outdoor activities are going to be huge over the next 12 months. But one thing you may also find that will be big is small group tours and also self-guided tours. So doing content for SEO and rankings, etc., around these two areas will be big going forward over the next 12 months. Now, some people may be scared to travel in large group tours because of catching the coronavirus again, or whatever that would be. So self-guided and small group tours are going to be bigger going forward, in my opinion. In fact, we have some customers who predominantly do large multi-day tour products, but they are now looking at offering a self-guided option because that is where they see the industry going for a big part of it. But some of the other things to think about, especially if you're a day tour company, some of the other things to think about is what is happening with the current demographics just now. So the over 60s, more and more of that generation and higher are going online. More and more of them are creating Facebook accounts to stay in touch with their family and friends. More and more of them are having FaceTime calls or Zoom calls with their family and friends. So for going forward, that as a target market through Facebook advertising or content is going to be much bigger because there's going to be more of them online. Students, that may seem like a funny one, but at the moment, and I don't like to tarnish the same brush across all students, but students like to spend money in bars and go out and eat to cafes and go to nightclubs. At the moment, they are not able to do that. They are saving money. For the first time in their lives, they're probably saving money. So what you can do is generate content and products around the student market. They will want to get back out and have fun with their friends. Do you offer food and drink tours, or do you offer something that can entice students to come out with their family and their friends and enjoy life again and be out there and party and everything else? Is there something you do around that? The corporate and the local businesses is also going to be a bigger market going forward, especially initially. Again, employers and employees are all stuck at homes. They're all not able to interact with their colleagues. So one of the things that a lot of businesses will look at doing, or should be looking at doing, is giving them team building opportunities. So that could be products and tours around team building, outdoor activities, and again, in small private groups, so they can bring out their team, enjoy kayaking or axe throwing or a food tour or a drink tour, something along those sort of lines. So team building content around those sort of aspects, again, to when search comes back up again, when people start searching for buying tours online through Google, having content around these areas, if you do it now, 2 or 3 months down the line, once we start coming out of this crisis, that content is already sitting there. It's already been picked up by Google, and Google will start to rank that type of content. So you want to do it sooner rather than later. Don't wait for until we're over this crisis. Do it now. But again, local businesses, corporate team building is another possible aspect that you could be creating content around. An obvious one is family with children. I have 2 children myself. They are stuck at home. I've got a smaller child who doesn't really understand what's going on and is getting a little upset because he can't see his friends and family. So give children something to look forward to. Aim your content around family and children. Parents will want to take their kids out just to be kids again and have fun and get out there and explore and just be children. What tours and products can you create for that demographic that you can create content around, again, to help with future rankings in SEO? But another one that a lot of people don't think about is anyone who's celebrated a current milestone. So this could be a birthday, a birth of a child, an anniversary. A lot of people are celebrating things like this while they're stuck at home and having to celebrate through a Zoom chat or something along those sort of lines. So people will want to get out and celebrate this properly when they come out of the crisis. So what can you do around your products and your tours that can cater for the people who want to celebrate for those types of markets? Again, it's another opportunity to create content around and for targeting those types of demographics. Next slide, please. So what is the expected impact of COVID and how will people search for content? Well, I've sort of touched on that slightly already, and that is because, and again, it'll be by default, because international travel will be at a much reduced rate, or if it happens at all for the next 12 months, then everything is going to be from a local search based. So if I'm in Glasgow in Scotland, if you could not tell the accent, my family and myself will be searching for things for my family to do in and around the local area and in and around Scotland, and even down in England as well. So England for me is a local market. The whole of the UK is a local market for me, for myself. So think about how your customers are going to search for things in your local destination or surrounding destinations, because this is where search is going to go. It's actually going to be more locally driven content that will drive this, and it's what people will search for. So this is why you have to create content for the local market. Next slide. So what are the keywords to keep an eye on and what are the keywords to avoid? Now, this is a question I can't really answer in general terms because keywords are different for every single business, for every single demographic. Your demographics, the competition in your area, the types of products that you have, it's such a varied array of different keywords that you could be using. It's hard to quantify. But again, keywords around things to do in your local area, activity to do in your local area, tours to do in your local area. Things like that is what people will be searching for. Things for my children to do in Croatia, or things for my children to do in Paris, wherever that would be. The list I have just given you in terms of celebrating birthdays or families or things like that, but at the local level, that is the type of keywords you should be searching for or should be using in your content going forward. Now, this is not to say to completely forget about the international market, because that will happen again, even if it is 12 months down the line. But that content, which you could have optimized already on your website, is sitting there ready and waiting for when we do come out of this. But because more and more people will be searching for more local aspects and local products, Google will actually see the local side of things as more relevant and push them up the rankings. So by default, anyone who's got an international target content, that will just naturally slip down the rankings because that isn't what people are searching for. So over the next 12 months, again, search key terms and optimize your content for the local market, because eventually Google will rank that higher because that is what technically people are searching for. Next slide, please. That's me finished. So I hope that was okay, and no doubt we'll have time for questions at the end of this, and hopefully that sort of made you think a little bit about the products and the search terms that you could be using now.
Great. Thanks, Chris. We'll get back to you in a bit later. Guys, don't forget to ask your Q&A, your questions in the Q&A icon below. And now we go to Anna.
Hi, everyone. I hope you're doing well in your respective homes. Glad that you could join us today. So as Eric said, my name is Anna. I'm a brand manager for GetYourGuide. And basically that means that it's my responsibility to understand the broader market, to look at market insights and customer data, to understand how we should be positioning our business. Ultimately with the aim of making sure that people know about us, understand what we do, and tell their friends about us. And so today what I want to do is give you a little bit of an insight into the GetYourGuide customer. So a huge part of what we do is market research. And I think ultimately there are a lot of ways to address the immediate needs of your customer. But the way that you address them, how you address them, and what you choose to specifically focus on, that basically, those two things encapsulate you as a brand. That makes you recognizable. And I guess those two things should always be guided by what you know about your audience. And I think, particularly in a time of crisis, to remain authentic and connected to your audience, it's more important than ever to understand who you're speaking to. So who they are and what they really care about. Next slide, please. Thank you. And ultimately, what you're trying to do by doing that is, well, what we're trying to do at GetYourGuide is transition from GetYourGuide as a service to GetYourGuide as a brand, something that people really believe in and feel loyal towards. And so for you, that would translate to, moving from chance traffic to moving to loyal readership. Next slide, please. So I'm going to dive very deeply, very briefly rather, into our customer research, give you an idea about who we're talking to, and then tell you a little bit about how that translates to what we're doing at the moment in terms of our content. And then hopefully I'll leave you with some tips that hopefully you find useful to apply to your own sites. So starting from the very beginning, when we look at the traveler market, we found that there are three types of travelers. Firstly, there are vacationers, and for them, travel is really a way to relax, to disconnect, to get away. On the other end of the spectrum, there are explorers, and these are the people for whom travel is an absolute lifestyle. They want to go in, they want to like completely immerse themselves in their destination, in their location, and they want to really get their hands dirty, and they want to really feel the place. For them, travel, it's not so much something you do for a short amount of time, it's a way that you live in general. And then finally in the middle, so about 3% of the traveler market are tourists. And for them, travel is really a checklist. It's about getting to know a place and understanding it by seeing different things and experience things that are quintessentially important to that place itself. What we found that and I'm sure a lot of people in the audience right now are thinking, well, me and my audience, they're definitely explorers, right? When I travel, I really want to dive right in. I really want to experience the grittiness of the place. But what we actually found was that when we probed them a little bit further, people were really, really unlikely to want to visit Paris and not see the Eiffel Tower and not see the Louvre. So there's this element of checklists in tourists that explorers don't really have. And when it comes down to it, people actually more identify with a tourist persona than an explorer persona. Next slide, please. And so when we're looking at GetYourGuide specifically, given that for tourists, travel is an absolute checklist, it's no wonder that they over-index for GetYourGuide. Next slide, please. Thank you. So looking at the tourist segment in particular, what we found was that people of all ages, all family makeups, all demographics travel. So the tourist isn't really defined by a demographic set. Instead, they're defined by a set of attitudes. And these qualities are sort of exhibited by the conscientious profile according to the big 5 personality types. And that makes them reliable, thorough, generous, motivated, and prompt. And so the five qualities, or the 5 attitudes that we really see in tourists across the spectrum, are a deep curiosity. And this means that tourists really love to learn and grow. They want to explore new frontiers. And when it comes to travel, travel is for them a way to satiate this thirst to learn and grow. They also have a zest for life. And so this means that they're really energetic and enthusiastic. They really want to dive in. They really want to see all the sights. They want to taste the food. They want to hear the music. They want to speak to the people. Third, they have a really strong sense of work-life balance. So they're quite conscientious, like I said before. They're hard workers and they're very driven and motivated. But on the other hand, they also want to make sure that they reserve a portion of their life for themselves in their private time. And therefore, travel and hobbies are a way for them to help strike this balance. Fourthly, they're really independent, but they're also very social. So they really embody the 2 ends of the spectrum here. The people that we interviewed in our qualitative research, they had really specific hobbies. There were people who kept bees. There were people who really, really enjoyed going to Comic-Con. There were people who loved jazz. There were people who played billiards specifically in their spare time, or who were really into specific sports. But on the other hand, they also had this really strong sense of wanting to connect with people around them. They really valued their friendships and their relationships and their families. And so when they travel, vacations or holidays are an opportunity for them to do both of those things. So they seek out these independent, these individual interests, while really having an opportunity to connect with the people around them. And finally, the last attitude is a strong sense of responsibility. So they have a strong sense of social and environmental causes. Lots and lots of them volunteered. They were really politically engaged or socially engaged. And it's not hard to make the leap between that and a desire to travel. The way that it manifests when they travel is this compulsion to see, to show respect to the place by seeing the must-see sites, or by engaging with local culture. Next slide, please. Okay, and so beyond the attitudinal classification of tourists, there are some things that broadly represent tourist behavior, planning behavior specifically. So, and there are some demographic particularities. So they tend to be between 25 and 55, pretty even split between male and female. They take 3.9 trips per year. Their top 5 social media channels were Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and Snapchat, surprisingly. Their top 4 resources, they really like review sites. They really respect and value the opinions of staff in accommodation. They lean on travel guides, which is good news for you. And they also are quite dependent on Google Maps. We know that a big percentage of them would book online. So this is already a huge barrier that we've crossed. So we know that the people that we're addressing are open to online booking. And 75% of those people will book in advance, which also bodes well for you. Of those who hadn't booked anything in advance, 90%, which is a huge number, had at least researched something to do. And 93%, even more, had ideas about what to do. Next slide, please. So I painted you a little bit of a picture about the tourist in general. And so now I just want to quickly introduce you to the customer journey. And so it's made up of five stages, so to speak. Now, because tourists prioritize travel, they are always on. They're always looking for stuff, for new and interesting things to do, for places to go. They will use lots of social media sites, lots of online publishers to do the same. It's really a priority for them, and they do this in their spare time. And once they sort of decide on a destination, then they move into the exploring phase. So this is really where like top 10 lists come into play. So itinerary, thinking about itineraries, and really getting a sense of the must-do things. Once they have an idea of that, that's when they'll start booking their tent poles. And this is a really interesting concept, a really important concept. So tent poles are basically, if you imagine like a really old school tent, you have these these 4 structures on either side, or actually like I guess 2 in the middle. And this is basically what holds up the bulk of their trip. So they will afford tourists structure throughout their day, so they can plan other things around them. So taking the Paris example, tourists might book the Eiffel Tower and Montmartre in one day. These are tentpole activities, absolutely must-sees. And then they'll use those particular planning points to like meander around the rest of the day and then sort of fill their time with other things. Once they've booked them, they'll look into more structured searching. So they'll start to build out more thorough itinerary, and look for more practical info, like opening times, like weather, like restaurants they want to see. And then finally, the last stage is in destination. So that's when they're on vacation. The research and planning doesn't stop there. They research and plan throughout the whole period, which bodes really well for online publishers. That means that you really do have a part to play at every phase of this journey. And so I guess one question that you could be asking yourselves at this point is, how can you really structure your content to fulfill these requirements at each stage? Next slide, please. Thank you. Okay, so we understand a little bit about what the tourist is like, their demographics and planning behavior, their journey. What kinds of holidays do they take? So broadly speaking, there are 4. First is relaxing and detoxing. And here it's just about, I mean, it does what it says on the box. The place is sort of secondary importance, but it's about going away, like connecting with nature, and really just taking the time to clear their mind. The second is bonding with loved ones. And here relationships absolutely take center stage. The things that they're doing there with their loved ones are obviously really important, but it's all about the people they're with. Third, there are old favorites. So this is about reconnecting with somewhere that they already know. And fourthly, are discovery trips. And now this is really like, this is the money shot for us, right? This is, so 72% of tourists, by the way, prefer this type of holiday, which is a huge number. And this is really about experiencing a place. This is about broadening horizons. This is about learning new things. This is about understanding different cultures. And therefore, these are the holidays that really satisfy the higher purpose of travel. Next slide, please. Okay, so I realized that was a really quick whirlwind of a debrief. And you're probably saying at this point, like, okay, great, Anna, thank you for this information. But at the moment, no one can travel. So why is this useful for me? Okay, next slide, please. I'll tell you why. Basically, because this knowledge helped us pivot in a time of crisis. And it helped inform what has become one of the most strategically important campaigns of our business right now, which is our new content campaign, The World at Home, which was introduced in a previous webinar. Basically, this campaign is a collection of different types of content, from video to forums to IG stories to articles, that allow us to fulfill tourists' needs at a time when people can't travel. Next slide, please. And so, just revisiting like one facet of this customer portrait. What we did was we basically looked at tourists' attitudes, and we understood what that really translated to, what they were trying to get from, or how that manifested in terms of what they wanted to get from each of these. So deep curiosity. This is really about learning new things. A zest for life. This is about getting their hands dirty, using all of their 5 senses. A work-life balance. In the current climate, this is about coping with a new reality, understanding how to deal with their new circumstances to make sure that they're still remaining healthy. Independent but social. At this point in time, it's really about, I guess the social thing really kicks up a notch, and it's about trying to understand how to satisfy their need for connection. And finally, this sense of responsibility, this engagement with the world around them, translates to a need to listen or hear heartwarming stories. And so, next slide, please. Thank you. And to give you some really concrete examples about what this turned into, for us, we developed a suite of content that tried to address these customer questions. So learning new things, for example, became a virtual video tour of the Vatican. We got a guide to use stock footage to show people through the Vatican and give a little snippet of their tour. We also put together a 48-hour virtual itinerary of New York. So we said, okay, well, you're stuck at home this weekend. How about a weekend trip to New York? And we allowed them to travel there virtually. In terms of getting their hands dirty, we made a virtual pasta making workshop, or we gave them film recommendations to help them feel like they were in Italy. We gave them tips to beat cabin fever. We gave tips on how travel-loving couples can connect virtually, who are maybe separated, or and all of these tips, again, we made sure to tie back to the core of our business. So all of these were really travel related. We just really pivoted at this time. We also did coloring in pages for the kids. So we launched it over Easter, and that really allowed people or families to connect together. The coloring pages were done by a German illustrator, and they were travel themed. And then finally, hearing heartwarming stories, we had a live video session with a Berlin drag queen, and she spoke to us about what it was like to do drag in Berlin. We also published an article about travel stories from the Get Your Guide employees. Next slide, please. And so the thing that I'm going to leave you with is this. It's 4 tips that I think that you can most take away from this. And it's really about pivoting your content strategy to address a new context, to make sure that your content is in line with the reality, to really connect with people, and to make sure that you, as Chris said before, to make sure that you stay relevant. And I think just actually one comment on that, he made a really poignant point about, I think relevancy is really key here. This is really an opportunity for you to really drive brand loyalty and drive brand trust. And if your audience can see that you really understand them and that you're really addressing their deep needs, they're more likely to remember you once this is all over. And so what does that mean? First tip, be inspirational. Ideate on content that satisfies your audience's wants and needs. Second, optimize your distribution. So take a look at your customer insights. What articles perform best on which channels? Do your Facebook videos get more attention than any other content type? If so, how can you create new content from content that you've already done, or pivot your content and really address those new channels? Thirdly, think ahead. And this is where the SEO stuff really comes in, right? So what types of questions might your audience have today or tomorrow or next month? And where are they likely to go? So we know that it is very, very likely that when travel starts again, there will be a surge in regional and domestic travel. What type of content can you produce that satisfies that need? And fourthly, and this is sort of aside from customer data specifically, but I think it's still really important. We're living in a time of uncertainty. No one really understands what's going on. No one really knows when they can travel again, but people still want to, and they want to be reassured. So tip number 4 is just to reassure. Acknowledge that these are weird times. be human, be personal, and really concentrate on trust USPs. And that means that when it comes to thinking about what to offer or what to suggest, you know, remind people that they can cancel, remind people that they can still plan. And I think there, if you do these 4 things, you'll be really well positioned to drive brand trust and brand loyalty. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anna. We only have 15 minutes left, so I will be very quick with the new feature update, so that we have at least 10-12 minutes for questions. I would like to share that we are updating our widgets technology, and anyone using this widget, so integrating a widget on a specific website, will get access to a number of new metrics, all of which also are available at the integration link or at the integration level, including deep links. So this will include the partner page URL, integration type, link products, the integration status, whether it's active, broken, or deactivated, the number of views the integration is getting, the click-through rate, bookings, conversion rate, so all the transactional metrics for every single integration. Moving on to the next page, you see that integrating this widget will also enable a few additional improvements of the current analytics pages in the partner portal. It will basically allow you to filter or sort on any of the metrics, and it will give you aggregate booking data by source markets, by city, and point of interest. Now, we have just shared like a short list of more than a few hundreds of metrics that we could be sharing. What we would really like to hear from you is, what do you think would be most helpful for us to share with you as a basis for optimizing your integrations? So in our share out email after the session, we will also send you a link to a survey, which on one hand allows you to provide some feedback on which metrics would be particularly important for you, which ones you would actually suggest, as well as raise your hand in that survey if you would like to join our user experience research, which will be kicked off next week already. So it's really an invitation to, if you are interested, to join and help us co-develop the advanced marketing analytics for you. With that, I would suggest to move over to Ask Me Anything. We should start with the questions already asked for the previous presentations. Over to you, Erica.
Yes, thank you so much, Dennis. Well, I'll go straight into the questions. Our first question is from Haneen. Can we advertise the virtual videos on our website? I think Anna.
Yeah, sorry, I just had to unmute myself. You absolutely can. It would be very welcome. You can find all of the content that we produced so far on the campaign landing page, which I will have Erica send around to you after this.
Yes, perfect. We usually send out an email after the webinar, so I will include that for sure. Mm-hmm. Thank you. A question for Chris. You mentioned, this is from Claudia, you mentioned the term travel guide. It's a little bit vague. Can you narrow down what you mean by travel guides, Chris?
Yeah, it's a term I prefer using. I hate to see, it's just as a personal thing, I hate to see the word blog in the top of a website. Everyone knows what a blog is. It's just boring. Everyone just thinks it's about business news. So if you have travel guide up there, and inside there you have information about your destinations, stories from your guides, things that are inspirational, things like that is what I mean by travel guides. I just hate the word blog.
Okay, that's good to know. We have another question for you, Chris, from Jason. I'm going to invest a fair bit of time shooting some city exploration videos to get people walking around the city through my eyes. What is the optimum video length I should be aiming for, even if I have to break a walk into parts?
It's a good question. So it depends if you're using it purely just as a a promotional or inspirational type thing on a website, or if you're actually using it for like a virtual tour. Obviously a virtual tour would be a lot longer, but even with that, I would break that down into 2-minute chunks if you're doing a virtual tour, if you can do that through a video, so people can just go into it and dive into the bits that they want to see. But if you're using something on social media or anything like that on the website, 60 seconds is a maximum you really want to have something on there. People's attention spans tend to wane after that sort of point. However, if you have something that's really engaging and really sort of what the customer wants to see, that's not to say that you can't have a longer video. It's just some platforms will allow you to have a 60-second video anyway, so you may as well keep it within that sort of time frame.
Cool. Great. Another question for you, Chris. This is from Barbara. I'm running an English language destination site for Vienna. How will I best address domestic and neighboring markets? Will it make sense to translate certain posts into German, Hungarian, or Slovak? And which post shall I focus on? Any tips you may have?
That is a very good question. It really does depend on the destinations you're targeting. So, for example, I have a number of customers who target Germany, for example, for products, but they still market them in English, the English language. Most Germans speak really good English, better than Scottish for most people, to be honest. So I would doing it in English is not an issue for certain destinations, but if you can translate it for them, there is no harm in doing so. Because I used to have someone who worked for me who was French, came from Paris. And what I found fascinating was when she was searching for anything to do, even within Scotland, she searched on the French version of Google. So even using things on, if you're looking for stuff for translating on these types of platforms as well, people will tend to use the platform of Google that they are used to from their destination. So translating stuff for those Google platforms is certainly something I would consider if you think it's going to make a big benefit for that audience.
That makes so much sense. Thanks, Chris. A question from Megan. Hi, Megan. I remember you saying that there would be a new feature in the dashboard coming soon that would prompt us when a tour is discontinued or if we have broken links to tours. I think this is for Dennis. Is this still planning to roll out? I am seeing a lot of my tours going offline right now, and I suspect not all companies will survive the crisis, and that this could be extremely useful in the future. Is Dennis in there? We'll try to.
Sorry,
oh, okay.
I was distracted by my son who came running in to bring me some ice cream. It's really lovely, but unplanned. Right, so let me quickly catch up on the question again. Virtual tools. So we have, I think the question. Sorry,
it's from Megan. Yeah.
And can you repeat the question, because now I lost it here. In the,
I'm sorry. So it's a question from Megan. She was asking about the new feature in the dashboard coming soon that would prompt us when a tour is discontinued or if we have broken links to tours. Is this still planning to roll out?
Yes. So we have pushed back the rollout of rerouting to the second best next or alternative offer for broken links, simply because right now there are like so few book tours that it's not as relevant as others, but we definitely commit to having it implemented before the market rebound. So we'll be coming just a little bit later.
Yeah, just be a little patient with us, guys. It will come. A question from James Smith. Thank you for all the information. What are the statistics at GetYourGuide relating to domestic bookings? Have you got any data which demonstrates how active local travelers are when booking domestic tours or travel with GetYourGuide?
James, so I take this question. James, I'm not sure, you probably didn't request the domestic data reports that we had offered to share in our last weekly partner forum. This is basically giving you an overview of what type of points of interest, what tours and activities, which destinations have been visited and booked by our customers.
Great. We can send him the link again in the next email. Yeah. Our next question is from Celeste. I run a travel blog. I was Googling briefly on virtual tours and affiliate programs yesterday. Are there any virtual tours that are included in the Get Your Guide affiliate programs? In other words, can we earn on virtual tours?
I also take this question, Celeste. So, so the word at home is only free virtual experiences that we are not charging. But we have also shared in the last shared email a link where you can see all the bookable virtual tours. We are currently testing it to see whether it's meeting significant demand and therefore worthwhile to extend. We will make this a very data-driven decision, but we can also, again, send to you the link so that you can see the available bookable virtual tours.
Cool. Anna, do you have anything to add or all good? Good. Our next question is from Jose. Most blog sites are about personal travel experience, real or simulated. Is there space for personal websites with travel information only? How to create original with standard information? With what formats or what kind of language?
It's one for you, Chris.
So if I get this question right, is it talking about creating a separate website for travel content?
I believe so, yeah.
Personally, I would say no. You really want to have your content on the website you would sell products onto, because why would you want to rank a website that's not selling your products on? We had this issue with a customer in the past. They had two separate websites, one for a blog, one just purely product driven. But what that did was it split the audience up. The one website was getting lots of traffic, the other website was not, and the website that was getting lots of traffic was raising in the rankings, but the one with the actual products wasn't anywhere to be seen. So by having the one website that contains your content, that contains all your products, is actually better for rankings. So the more traffic you get to that website, the more domain authority you build, the better that chance that has of ranking. So I wouldn't advise splitting up the website into two. But again, if you're creating a separate brand or doing something with that, then yes, that's fair enough. And you can link off to the product website, but you need to be careful with that because you will basically be starting from scratch. You will have no domain authority. And to give you an idea, to get onto the first page of Google can take 12 months, 18 months plus. There's no longer a quick fix to rank on Google on the first page, if at all. So yeah, it takes time. It takes a long time now these days. So you have to have a think about that in terms of how you want to play about with a new website, because that may affect things.
Perfect.
Erica, if you allow, I would like to rephrase Claudia's comment as a question for Chris. Our partners have heard many times that they should focus on domestic demand. Now, the matter of fact is that many of our partners are actually writing about content in other destinations. So let's say there is a destination guide which is talking about Indonesia or Bali, but it's really primarily attracting US audience.
Mm-hmm.
But the majority of the traffic is actually coming from SEO, and the SEO is driven by the content. So they don't really own an audience, they own a content that basically then attracts an audience that is tied to that content. So for these partners, what should they then actually write about? What does domestic then mean? Does it mean producing content for the Balinese population? Or is there any other hack to basically still service in this example, US audience with domestic content, and how to best go about this?
There's a couple of answers I can give to that. And one of them is, I've been having this conversation a lot. I'm actually in the process of writing a blog article on it and a bit of advice guides on it. But this isn't going to be easy for some businesses at the moment. When we say you have to focus for the local market, this could mean that you have to completely do a 360 on your business. No, what's happening just now, and I know why it's happening, but what's happening just now is a lot of operators are trying to shoehorn existing products for a local market. So if you are in the United States, say you're in New York, but you attract someone from the UK, and the UK is your main market, that is no longer going to be viable for the next 12 months. You have to create products for New York. You have to create products within your local market. So if you're in the UK or in the US and you're doing Indonesia, you have to create products. If you have that reputation built up in a country like that, you have to build content and products for that market, for the locals in that destination to look at. Or if you're based in the US, you have to completely pivot your business and start focusing on the US. International travel is not going to happen for 12 months. So you're going to have to look at things that you can do in your own local markets. So there's no point in looking at international travel and looking at international destinations just now. Have it there in the back burner for when things pick up again. But for the next 12 months, staycations and local market is going to be the only market going forward. So you're going to have to really have a strong, good think about what you're going to do in your business and how you're going to change your business completely in terms of focusing on that market. That's strong words, but that is what's going to happen. And people need to wake up to it.
Okay. Very honest answer from Chris. I hope that answers your questions or
your comments. That's the only answer I can give. It has to be honest.
Of course.
People have to realize that this is what's going to happen. So
yeah, it's the honest truth for sure. Our next question is from Bernard. I think this is for you, Dennis. For the new widgets, does this mean that a new widget code must be inserted?
Yeah, the quick answer is it depends on how you implemented the widget. For the sake of clarity and considering the time, I would suggest that we will just make sure to be very clear on guiding what exactly needs to be done, depending on how you implemented it in the beginning, to make sure that that it's easy for you to do. So I would suggest we postpone this question until we launch it.
Okay, cool. We'll get back to you, Bernard, if we have more details on that. Yeah. Maybe I can answer one last question. We're already over time. From Vivian, what is the average time before going on vacation to book an activity? I guess this is more for Anna.
Yeah, I'll take this one. It's a really great question, Vivian. And I'm sorry, but the answer is it depends. It depends on a couple of things. It depends on, firstly, the profile of the audience. We know that some people are much more into planning than others, and therefore those people will tend to book tent poles, specifically tent poles, up to 3 months in advance. For those that don't like to, also it depends on the type of tour or experience. We know that tent poles and must-see activities are tended to book further in advance than the unique off the beaten track stuff. So for example, think about if you're going to see the Northern Lights, you're going to book them 3 months in advance. We know though that people book hop-on, hop-off buses a day before. So it really, really depends on the type of tour and the type of traveler that they are.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Anna. We don't have time anymore for any other questions, but for the ones who have asked their question and wasn't answered live, we will follow up with you guys and we will try our best to answer your questions offline. But with that, that is the end of our partner forum. Dennis, any last words or we're all good?
We are already over time, so I keep it short and only say thank you for your sustained commitment. A big thank you also to Chris and Anna for joining this webinar and sharing all these useful insights and tips, as well as answering the questions. Thank you very much.
Perfect. Thank you so much, guys. And we will see you next week's partner forum on the 27th. Thank you so much. Have a good day. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great
Bye.
night.
Thank you. Thank you.